Test, 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 test. Welcome, welcome, everybody. And no, Titan, I did not say testicles. Got everything started up a little early today. Uh, Sorry about that. I did have to do a little test on the audio to make sure everything was working properly. But
Yo, how's it going?
how's it going? Hope you're
I'm
having.
good.
Hope everybody's having a good week. I've had a bit of a interesting last couple days. I had someone hacked into my GameStop account and made two purchases yesterday, so I have been dealing with that between last night and today. So,
Ah, that sucks, man.
oh yeah, yeah, they decided that they were going to buy two Nintendo Switches
What? On your account?
on my account with my card. Yeah,
See, this is what I hate, right? You can't trust nobody any day.
right,
Nowadays, you can't trust anybody. Before you know it, they're sniffing around your financials and whatnot.
right, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy.
But
Everybody in
do
chat,
you
can you hear Snipe through the stream?
just call me Nick?
Okay, awesome, awesome, cool. All right. We'll wait a few more minutes here and see if anybody else jumps into the
I wanted to
Discord chat.
respond. Wanted to respond to the other episode. It's kind of I was watching it back on your Twitch, and it was like you can only hear your sound. So
Yeah, I had to. I didn't. I didn't have something set up right on my stream overlays, so I wasn't.
oof.
I didn't have the audio being shared from Discord to this stream, so you could only hear me and not everybody else, which was very frustrating. I got highly annoyed because
Yeah, I could imagine.
we had some pretty good conversations on last week's episode, and it kind of sucks that you couldn't hear Visions or
I
Sosa.
was yeah, I was really wondering if how people would respond to it because I'm really opposed to it.
Mm.
I think it's really unfair in both ways. If you put a transgender woman in a women's sports league, to me that's like if I would put a wig on LeBron James, he could play for the women league. You know, you
Yeah,
know, that's
right.
how it feels to me, right?
Yeah, we discussed that, and we all kind of came to an agreement and decided that if you want to if a transgender man or woman wants to play in a sport for their respective gender that they are claiming that they are. That there should be a form of testing to make sure that their estrogen levels or their testosterone levels are
But that doesn't change
m-
the fact that they
matching
were.
matching the highest person on, whether it be the estrogen level of the highest person on a women's basketball team, or the testosterone level of a man playing football or whatever, making sure that their levels are equal to, that way there
That
isn't
doesn't
an
change anything. That doesn't change anything because it's simple biology,
right,
right? If you're a transgender woman, you were a man for 12 years of your life, at least,
right,
because you're not allowed by law to have a transgender operation before your 12th birthday because you're not fully grown yet.
hmm,
So basically, they have the build already of a man. And no matter how much estrogen you take, she will always be bigger than a regular woman. That's just basic facts. And this gives them an advantage over the female players, which is unfair, in my opinion. And the same goes for women that transfer to being a man or claiming to be a man, let's put it that way, because I don't see it that way. I mean, you're born one way, you're that for the rest of your life that you're here. No matter how much you change your genitals or how much you would like to claim that you're a different gender, you're born into this world by law, by nature, that you're male or female, and there's no way to change it. You just have to accept it. We all go through this phase, right? We all have to accept it.
right,
It's not something you can choose. The same goes with your age. You cannot choose your age.
right,
Your age is based upon how long you've been here or the amount of experience you have during this lifetime that you're on this planet.
right,
So there's no scientific way to change this. So saying that you're a transgender woman doesn't make you a woman. To me, you're still a man, but somehow along the way you got confused or something and you decided to become a woman. That's how I see it. If you're born into this world a man, you're a man. There's nothing you can do about it, right? And the same goes for there is of course the exception of people who are born with both genitalia, right?
right,
They have a choice. But for us, the normal people who are born male or female, there is no choice. You have to accept it, who you are, and deal with it. It's maybe hard to say and easy said than done, but it's still a fact. We're born in by nature, male or female, and there's no changing anyhow any of this. It's you can't change it. And if you do change it, and in case of, let's say, a woman goes changing into a man and she goes participate in man sports, she will always have a disadvantage because she is smaller built by biology because she was a female and she's built like a female. And no matter how much drugs you take, and maybe if she goes to the gym and works out like a man, then maybe eventually she could be more of a competition to the male society. But still, it's not real. It's not realistic, and I think it's really unnatural to do it. It's.
yeah,
I mean,
fair enough.
im- im- imagine a lion going, "Hey, I want to be a female," and he bites off his dick, and then he just takes off his mange, and he's like, "I'm a female." No, it's not gonna work like that. It's simply not gonna work. In whatever logic sense, it doesn't work for me.
Right,
It's and
yeah,
I feel for the people that they have the need. to to change their gender just to feel better. It's I think it's really sad.
Fair enough.
It's really sad. And now, if you look at society, we live in a society where the majority of society is female,
Hmm.
and it keeps on growing. We're going to be eventually having a problem because there's not enough men.
Right.
And what's going to happen then? All those women that always were, you know, valued by their looks, are then just completely irrelevant
Right.
because the man has to choose. The man has the value of being beautiful becomes less.
Right.
And I think it's strange that what you see now in society is that a lot of females are trying to become men, take
Hmm.
the job and responsibilities that a traditional man would have, and
Right.
then expect the man to be traditional while they're not being traditional.
Hmm.
That's something I'm confused about. It's like the traditional woman is like staying at home woman, cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids. That's what's the job description. And that was agreed upon a long time ago. The male goes out to provide for the family and protect the family, and the female takes care of the offspring and the house in this case. But nowadays you have a lot of women that can't even cook, let alone clean,
Right.
right? And but they do expect you to be paying their bills and making, being the knight in shining armor and bringing them flowers and presents and whatnot. But nowadays, this whole in this era, this situation has really changed.
Yeah. There's a
And
lot of
and
changes going on.
and I'm honest about it. I'm really glad I don't have to date anymore. I'm really glad because the women you are supposed to date as a man nowadays is horrible. Look at them dating apps. Look at the live streaming apps you have nowadays on mobile phones. There's or OnlyFans or all those things. It's scary, man.
Oh yeah.
I'm
It
gonna.
it definitely has changed. Frenchie just said in chat, society has changed though, Nick, and we should move with it. Not all women want
And
your money.
no, but that's the problem. We men do evolve. We did evolve. We adapted to the situation, and we were like, "It's cool. You make money. All right, let's go. You make your own money. That's cool." But the problem is, we as men never see that money, and we would never ask for that money because we have the traditional role of providing. And some men are still stuck in there, and other men already, past that station and are like now, like, we don't want to be traditional because your ass is not traditional. So why should I be traditional?
Hmm.
And that now creates a dilemma because women want, the difference in men and women is that women put interest into people and we men put interest into achievement, things, goals. We don't really care about other people. That's not our main priority, but for them it's a priority. Like, oh, my girlfriend is having this, I gotta have that too. You know?
Hmm.
It's that female competition that you have is now to coming to a point where it's becoming lethal, so to say, toxic, lethal, and it's no good anymore. So I'm just glad I found my girl, you know. I'm happy I have an understanding with her, an
Hmm.
agreement in the household. You know, my wife, she actually told me like I'm not making this up, right? She told me she doesn't want me to clean the house. Not because I can't supposedly can't clean, because I can. But she said to me like it's a cultural thing, you know. From my culture, it's normal for the wife to take care of the house and clean and cook. That's so I'm like, you know, I respect that 100%. You know, if you want it that way, we agree upon. You keep the house clean, you cook, you do this. You know, my job is to go out and get the groceries for her to cook. You know, and those kind of agreements are now kind of being a blurred line, you know. There's no
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
it's it's
a lot of people, a lot of people have they've changed with the times, and they, like me for instance, I do a lot of the cooking in my house. Not to say that my wife can't, but because I
it's
am
it's
because I am
perfectly
a cook,
fine.
I tend to do a lot more of the cooking in the house. But we have a joint bank account. She makes her money, I make my money, but we share it. Um, so
Yeah, exactly the same with me, man. We share I'm going about the finances right now, but because my wife told me, she's like, you know if I do the finances, I'm too, too triggered to buy useless stuff, like small trinkets or, things we don't need. So she told me, like, you do the finances, so to be safe that I don't buy stupid shit. And she told me, she's honest about it. And I was like, that's the kind of relationship that you should have, that you
right.
could just tell each other how it is and
Hmm.
don't don't go lying about it or hide the truth. It's simple facts. Just what you're, who you are, and that's something that you should never forget. And always be honest to one another.
Exactly. All right. So we are going to go ahead and get started here. So the
You
first
got some
question,
interesting questions.
yeah, I we got some good ones. So the first one I got is, what sport or sports do you think should get more TV time? Nick, I'll go ahead and let you start.
Well, I live in Europe, so the TV time of sports is really different from the United States.
Right, right,
We don't have a Super Bowl that's massive on television. Yeah, we do. It gets aired here, but it's not a sport that we're really actively that shows on TV. Same goes with baseball. We don't have that on TV as much.
right,
It's more like if, our country wins a championship, for instance, in baseball. Yeah, of course it's going to be on the news, but it's not like every game is on the air. Like with you guys have really have the games on the TV, like basketball, the NBA, the ice hockey, the baseball, the American football, even the MLS.
yeah,
So yeah, it's only actually our main sport on television is mostly football, soccer, football, and tennis. And maybe the Tour de France, maybe, but it's not really any different sports. It's usually football or tennis that take the major TV time.
right. All right. So for me, it was I have two different ones that I feel should get more attention than they do, and that was women's volleyball as far as for college, and then another one was college wrestling. Um, Both of those sports, the only time they get any sort of, I guess, notice at all is when it is time for the championships to happen. And that's the only time you really see anything as far as here in the states, as far as you know those sports happening.
Yeah, basically the same situation we have with baseball. You only hear about it when there's a big event
Right,
happening.
right. And you know,
Yeah.
being a person who did start wrestling at a very young age, and it's been a large part of my life, I wish that they would give it more attention. Um, there's a lot of American football players who, they get recognized for their their accolades and their abilities on the football field. But some of those
But
accolades and skills that they are using, they also got from doing another sport, and usually that sport for football players is wrestling, because they both help each other in one way or another. Um,
but do you think that women's foot soccer, for example, in the United States, it's not really viewed of no well it's viewed, but it's not as
I could see
highly
that too.
attractive.
I could definitely
Highly,
see that. Soccer here in the states is not as prevalent in the states as it is in the UK or South America and the other countries. It's not prevalent here. They show it, but it's kind of like the other sports for you guys. It doesn't get a lot of attention out here.
but what do you think about the women that were like angry about not receiving as much money as the men did?
I mean, if they're a professional player for in the same sport, I feel that their pay should be equivalent to each other.
Why?
I mean, they're doing the same they're
Yeah,
doing the
but they're
same
not.
job that they are that a man is. So that I feel that they should be paid just as much as a man playing the same sport.
But the accomplishments they both make is fairly different because if I've heard this and I've read about it that the women's national team of America went up against college boys of 15 years old and they lost. And I'm like, yeah, it's logical you don't make as much money, you don't bring as much people to the stadium, you know? You
Mm-hmm.
don't fill up advertising, and there's a whole lot of marketing that the female football players don't have that the male players do have because if you take a celebrity like Ibrahimovic and you bring him to America, that's going to bring a lot of people to the stadium.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
I can really name one player of the female squad that's gonna have the same effect. So there is a difference, and to say that they should be paid equal is actually absurd because they don't achieve the same things.
mm-hmm.
They're not the same quality. They're different quality, and you have to admit, if you look on television between men's football and women's football, or soccer if you prefer, there's a huge difference in skill and in how the game is played. And of course, the physique, the biology is also a large factor in this because men happen to be a lot faster than women and stronger, and those abilities really work in this kind of branch. Those are abilities you really need to be good, you know?
Right. Big
So,
Bad in chat says we need to bring back women's roller derby. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I liked watching roller
uh,
derby. That was fun to watch. Um, Frenchie says men's Premier League football brings in billions from TV money, so therefore the payout is massive. Unfortunately, the women's game doesn't get as much income both through TV and stadium.
See what I mean? There's the difference. And if they were like on the same level, like they bring in the same amount of money to the table, I would be, I would be 100% for it, and let them have equal pay. But if you don't perform at the same level and you don't bring in as much money as the other side does, then you shouldn't be getting as much pay. You shouldn't be paid as much. That's that's also, if you do a good job, you get paid more than you do a bad job. That's simple fact. You get promoted if you do a good job, and you get fired if you do a bad job. That's how it is.
Yeah, Frenchie just said, I don't think ability should come into it. It should be based on income. Same as Apple can pay their employees more than your local store. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, of course, because Apple is a bigger company. But I think when it comes to sport, I think the quality of the players is extremely important to how they are being paid. If you're gonna put a amateur team on television, nobody's gonna watch it, or maybe some people will, but eventually nobody would watch it because it's amateur football, and nobody really sees anything that sparks interest, because it's not really skilled. And if you put professionals on the television who are skilled and trained to perform, it is actually performing like like an actor would perform in a movie. If the actor performs bad in the movie flops and he doesn't get paid. That's how it is. And if the quality of the actor is good, the movie becomes good, in
Mm,
that sense. And he gets paid a lot of money because a lot of people will go watch it.
right.
No, you be in the streets like, oh, have you seen that guy in the movie? And you trigger other people because of your excitement. You trigger other people to go check it out, and this brings more and more marketing to it. And so, quality of players should be a large factor of what they are being paid. There's a reason why players like Cristiano Ronaldo go transfer for 100 million. There's a reason to it. And I think it's absurd, of course, 100 million euros for one player, but still, there's a reason to it. And I think honestly, if you look at it, and again, if they would bring in the same amount of money, and even though the quality might not be the same, I would still say, they bring in as much money as the men do, let them have the same salary. Because they bring in the same amount, they earn the same amount of money, so to speak, so they should be paid the same amount, but they don't, and that's the problem.
Hey, short fuse, I see you, bud.
Hey, what's up?
Not much, man.
You,
Big Bad said
Uh,
most pro athletes are overcompensated and we as consumers are the ones who have to pay for it. Uh,
that's true,
Frenchie
but
And it's
said
there's
Frenchie said there should be a range in wages, of course. Ronaldo deserves to be paid more than the average player, but there needs to be a wage cap.
yeah, but it's not his mostly of his income is not by his salary of the football. You have to understand there's a lot of marketing behind his salary. How many shirts he sells, how many
Well,
Nikes he
that's
sells.
usually a separate pay for most professional athletes.
Exactly,
That's a separate pay.
exactly. But the most majority of their pay comes from this marketing. That's why they make such big numbers.
Short fuse, you got an answer for this particular question?
Just a second. I am adjusting volumes real quick.
Oh, you're good, bro.
Am I loud?
No. You guys are fine. I'm trying to make it louder for me.
Ah,
Ah, right. Should we
Okay.
move on to the second one?
yeah. We'll give Short Fuse a chance to answer if he wants.
Okay, I think that's about as loud as it's gonna get. But okay. So let me read this question.
It was what sport
Uh,
or yeah, it kind of devolved from what sports and it went into another one. But the
Yeah,
original
what
question
sports
was
would you like to see?
which sport or sports do you think should get more airtime?
which sports do I think should get more airtime?
Yeah, what sport or sports do you think should get more
Oh,
airtime?
well, I mean, obviously wrestling,
Yes.
uh, collegiate, amateur, uh, your Roman Greco wrestling.
Hmm.
Um, the basically the foundation of a man's sport, if
Yeah.
you will. You know,
Hmm.
um, and then I also think that I have to agree with you on the whole women's college volleyball. I think that's another sport that's extremely underrated.
Yes.
Um, some of the things that those girls do and can do are just ridiculous when it comes to the
But
uh
is that like an American League type of thing, or
um
I mean,
no,
volleyball in general
it's
isn't
college. Volleyball is college. But I mean, I think volleyball in general is something that should be broadcasted more.
absolutely.
Be it collegiate, professional,
Yeah. I mean,
and same thing with wrestling.
yeah. I mean, men or women, as far as volleyball, as far as I'm concerned, should get more airtime. Um,
Yes.
because I mean, it is. I find
but
it very entertaining to watch. It's fun. It gets crazy.
you know,
I have to agree.
as far as the wrestling goes, I can see it from an entertaining perspective when it goes professional. You know,
Hmm.
there's a lot of entertainment going on in that industry. But for in what I know, and I know the wrestling is always been a show. It's not really somebody getting hurt or fucked up, because of the fight. It's always a big show. And
Are you talking about like the professional, like
yeah,
scripted wrestling, or are
yeah,
you talking about like amateur
Like
Roman Greco?
yeah,
no, really the professional type, the WWF and WWE,
I
the
mean
big
that
ones.
I mean yeah I mean yeah, that gets a lot of money just because they're storytelling, basically.
it's a soap
Yeah,
opera
Um,
and
for men.
it's what I said.
yeah,
It's more show and showmanship and entertainment than it's
yes,
actually about wrestling. So
yes.
if you say put more wrestling on the TV, I'm like, do I really want to watch like an amateur rock going at another guy? It's
Yes,
I
kind of,
mean
the wrestling
I
that
mean
me
yeah,
and Short
because
Fuse were talking about is more of your Greco-Roman stuff. The stuff that you don't see on WWE or WWF.
yeah, like
What would be in the
so a lot of
Olympics
the
essentially.
yeah, like a lot of the wrestlers that are in wrestling start off in other sports,
Right.
football, basketball, um, amateur wrestling, collegiate wrestling. They, I mean, I'd have to say at least a good, I don't know, 75, 65% of them start in
Right.
some form of collegiate wrestling or something. So I
Exactly.
mean, yes, like I'd like to see some of those backgrounds before the foreground.
Right. I can agree with that.
You
All
know,
right.
it kind of like, could it be like placed in the same spectrum as the MMA? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, exactly. A lot of those guys came from wrestling.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
yeah, of
like
course, that's
wrestling
a
is
lot.
a wrestling is a martial art. As much as people want to disagree with that, wrestling
yeah,
is a martial art.
I would agree.
It's a non-Asian version of martial arts, I could say, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. Yep.
And yeah, of course, there's multiple versions, like Krav Maga and all those kind of fighting styles that,
right.
you know, make an MMA fighter,
Hmm.
But I would definitely, if they could manage to reach the height the MMA has with the MMA fights, I would definitely think if they could pull it off, they should definitely deserve more viewing time.
Right. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to question number 2, which is score predictions for the college football national championship. Short, if you want to start off, you can.
You guys can go ahead and start on this one.
All right. I'll go ahead and start with this one. Um, a score prediction. Good lord. My score prediction is we're going to go 31-28, and I think Georgia's going to take it. Big Bad, I saw you in chat. What's your score prediction, bud? I know it's a little bit of a harder question for everybody that's in the UK.
Yeah, there's no really telling for us because first of all, I don't even know who's playing.
It's the University of Georgia versus the University of Alabama.
Yeah, that's like
Right.
I know nothing about the teams, I don't even know who's on the teams, Pick a team.
Right, right,
That's no, that's not really, we don't really get the information about university football or,
right.
the college kind of sports. So it's only professional for us. And even then, uh, come on, we have to agree that the MLS is not on the same level as the European football is.
No, it's not. I would agree with you on that.
So the MLS doesn't really get view time on our television as well. It is there, but it's paid channels. You have to really have the channel
Right.
to get it.
Yeah.
So those kind of things really don't. We don't even know about them. Let's just put it at that.
Right.
Um, I think if Georgia actually shows up to
God, let's hope
play,
so.
that they can beat Alabama.
Right.
But that's saying that they actually show up.
But they
Right.
have a history of not showing up.
No,
A lot of teams,
it can
a lot,
happen. They went in there
yeah,
and got a little too cocky,
yep.
and Alabama came in there and was like, "Okay, we're gonna stomp a mud hole in you." So,
Yeah, but that's the great thing of sports. It's not just a physical game; it's also a mental game.
yep.
Exactly. And they have the physicality. I'm a little worried about their mental
Mental
game.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So
But they're being like trying to pretend to be top dog and go off miserably?
Well,
Yep, that's what happened in the last game they had
yeah,
with
they
Alabama.
were the
Oof.
number one team pretty much the entire season, and then
Yeah, all right. I
they
get
went
the
into that
picture.
game and blew it.
I love those kind of games, man. I love those kind of games, and I really want to root for the underdog at that
Right,
point.
right,
Because if you get too cocky, you're gonna be put in place at some point.
exactly.
Well, the thing is even with them being number one and being on top, they were still the underdog.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
That's the sad point, is because every
Well,
it seems to be a thing that every sports channel that we have in the U.S., every uh, analyst, every announcer, every ref, every uh, what am I trying to say here, Renegade?
pretty
Uh,
much everybody.
yeah, I mean, pretty much everybody, like pretty much everybody is on, let's say, Nick Saban's dick.
Mm, yeah, it drives me nuts, which is why I'm really hoping
Like
Georgia shows up.
Alabama lost right before the voting for the uh, playoff teams,
Yep.
and they still voted them in
Mm-hmm.
because that's what's going to happen.
Yep.
Everybody's so infatuated with Nick Saban because he gets rules bent to his team's advantage and finds loopholes for his team to win, and everybody still praises him like he's God's gift to college football.
Right.
But if he
And
wins, that's saying a lot, right? But I'm assuming that the way he does it isn't really a clean one.
I mean,
It goes unnoticed.
he does it within the means,
So
but
he stays within boundaries. Then he's just a smart man. You gotta give it to
uh,
him.
I don't know. I think
If you
that
can imagine, right? If you have a team, right, and you can manage to lead this team to where it needs to go and staying within the rules and boundaries of the game, I say you are a pretty smart man. Because you have to imagine, right? A team consists of how many players? 25, 24?
There's
I think it's what
11.
up to
It's 11 per team.
it's
Yeah,
Well,
on the
on the
field,
field,
on the
right?
on the
field.
On
field.
the field. But I mean, there's
I know
the
NFL it's
total team.
53.
Yeah, NFL is 53, and I think college is just shy of that.
Well, imagine, right? Then you have 53 heads that all have to point in the same direction, and you as a coach are responsible for that. So have to be a freaking smart ass where you have to make 53 people go in the same direction. Then you have to be pretty darn intelligent if you can just pull it off,
But it's
and make
but the
them
thing is
do
is
as
it's
you want them to do it.
the thing is he's got like 10 other coaches there to help him. It's not just him. Like
Yeah,
they're
of
not
course.
praising everybody.
Every
They're
yeah,
just praising the one guy.
oh yeah, that's wrong. Of
So
course, you should give credit to where it's due, but
See what I'm saying?
Big Bad in
yeah,
Like
chat says, I disagree.
but
Alabama gets
still,
in
you
because
gotta
they are.
agree, it's an accomplishment in the first place that he got it there. So even though he might not have done it alone, he's still the end responsible person. So I think that he takes the credit is only rightful, because in the end, when it all goes to shit, they're also gonna knock at his door. So if it goes right, yeah, of course he gets praised, even though he might have multiple assistants. But that's normal in professional sports. There's not one single football manager in Europe that has no assistant. They all have assistants. It's normal. And if the trainer gets fired, there's always a second one already lined up that's already there. So there's always assistants in professional sports. It's never one guy. It never is. They do get the credit or the blame as one person, but it's never one guy.
So Big Bad in chat says, I disagree. Alabama gets in because they are good. They are a big draw and will make a lot of money for everyone involved. They are good. I will give them that. I I said it before in one of the previous episodes. I am a strong believer that the Southeastern Conference is the biggest overrated conference in college football.
Yes, because they're favored.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Uh,
for my information, Alabama and Georgia is both Southern.
yes.
Yes, they're both SEC. Yep.
Yep. They're both a
Okay.
Southern school.
Okay. Okay.
All right. On to question number 3. So, with the Winter Olympics coming, this question is kind of around that. What event or events do you have zero interest in watching during the Winter Olympics? I can start with this one, and this one was an easy question for me to answer.
Yeah, for me too,
It's
apparently.
figure skating.
Hallelujah.
I cannot do it. I don't know what it is about figure skating, but I can't watch it. All it does is put me to sleep. I don't understand it. I get so confused.
Would have to agree with that one.
Oh, I thought it was. I thought my reaction would be like, it's not really a pleasant sight to see a guy in a shiny shirt, figure skate
It's not even so much the outfits. It's just I can't. I just
and
can't do it.
tights. Oh God.
Okay, men's figure skating.
I
That's definitely
yeah.
one I don't have to see.
No, I could skip that. The women's I don't mind because that's
They have a
Yeah,
primarily
similar.
what it
Yeah.
was.
yeah. I can't do either one. Like both of them are
No,
just
to be honest, I
boring.
can't either. It's really boring. Eventually you're just sitting there hoping she falls, because she
That is
falls.
exactly what I do. I'll be watching that the entire time, and I'm going, God, just fall. And I may be the biggest dick on the planet by saying that, but I just can't.
No, you're not. I mean, there is no, you have to really love it, to be able to watch it because I can't do it either, man. I don't have the patience for it or something. I don't know. To see a girl on ice go twirling around and jumping and around on music is like, all right, go girl. You know? It's there is no entertainment level for me there. I get the difficulty, the
Right.
degree of training someone needs to do in order to be good at it, but there is no entertaining value for me there. To see a girl just twirling around on ice. That's like the same as goes with those figurines on ice, dancing on ice. Those, I can't watch that, man. I get nasty if I watch that. I get angry.
Yeah, I can definitely feel you on
I
that
would
one.
I would even rather watch bobsledding. That's watchable.
Hmm. I
Men
can
that
pretty much,
men
as far as the Winter Olympics are concerned, I can pretty much watch any sport, but I can't do the figure skating.
if there's one other sport that in the Winter Olympics, yeah, well. All the other skatings are fine, the short track, the
Yeah,
regular skating on ice, it's all good, but what you said, I don't. I
about the
can.
only other event I can think of that I don't I can't get into is like the cross country skiing. I
The langlaufen. Yeah,
that
yeah,
one
I get it.
that one I don't mind it.
Are you talking
It's
about like with going downhill with the flags?
no,
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 no, no.
no, that I
They
can do.
sometimes have
I'm
it.
talking about the ones where they're like on the flat ground and you're just watching them like chugging along. Looks like they're running, but they're on
It's like
Oh,
skis.
okay, okay,
Nordic walking on skis, man.
But I'm like,
okay.
that one just puts me to sleep just because it's just so boring and
Well,
so
you have the
long.
one with the shooting, right? The biathlon, is it called?
I'm not sure what that one is.
Biathlon, it's called, I think. That's the one where they walk around and eventually they have to shoot some targets.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know which one you're
that
talking
that is
about.
one. That one is pretty interesting to watch sometimes,
Hmm.
especially it takes a really lot of strength to do it because your body is limited because of the cold, and
Right,
it takes a lot of physique to do it, and then you have to focus just to aim right and shoot. That's
right.
really, I could imagine that to be really challenging as a person, because you have
Hmm.
to fight the cold weather and you have to push those skis forward, it's not gonna be an easy trip, and then on top of that you have to shoot a target,
Right,
like an actual hunter, like you're about to find yourself a meal in the snow and you're walking around with your skis and you have to shoot an animal just to survive, that kind of I think that's actually one of the good sports that they have in the Winter Olympics.
right. All right. So the next question I got was actually submitted by the Asian one, and it is pro wrestling a real sport?
It depends on which pro wrestling you're talking about. If you're talking about WWF and WWE, then I would say no, because it's not really a sport to me. It's really more a showmanship and entertainment show than it is a sport. I don't really get the same vibe as of, sport, in the term of sport when it comes to the WWF wrestling and WWE wrestling. It's more like always talking with the microphone, and somebody always suddenly pops in and comes join the wrestle. It's more of a show to me than it is an actual sport. So it depends really on which professional wrestling you're talking about. But if you go for professional, the other style of wrestling you were talking about, then I would definitely say that it is a sport. There's competition there, and you know,
Right,
then it is an actual fight instead of a big show. So
right. Yeah, the wrestling we were talking about earlier is what the WWE would call amateur wrestling. Um, but yeah, the pro wrestling would be WWE, AEW, all those. Short.
Um, I think as far as the physical side of it, the actual matches, the actual wrestling part of it, yes, that's professional. Um, I think that is a real sport because you do get hurt
Hmm.
or you have the potential
Right,
um
right.
parts of it to get hurt. Plus they get paid.
Hmm.
Um, and when they're out in the public, they have to be professional.
Right.
Just like any other sport, they have to get tested.
Hmm.
Um, like back in the 80s, they did not have to get tested as much as they
Oh
did
yeah.
in the 90s and 2000s,
Right, right.
or even before, like the 60s, 70s, they didn't
Hmm.
get tested. But
Yeah.
um, once they put themselves on the map as an actual sport or being involved as an actual sport, then um, they took the proper steps to make it um, as a professional sport with testing and everything else.
Right.
Um, and if they don't comply with those rules, then they can be fined or banned.
Exactly.
So I think yes, it is a sport in most aspects, but it's also entertainment.
Right.
Um, Part of the reason why WWE now changed their name from WWF to WWE was the entertainment aspect.
Right.
Now that's not the only reason. The
Oh
other
no.
reason was they were being sued
Right.
by the Wildlife whatever federation,
Yep.
claiming that they had the name first, which is I don't know. It could be true, could not be true. I don't know. I
I
don't think
think
they
they
really
did
gave a
have it
shit.
first, but really, you waited
It
how many
wasn't known.
years?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They waited until they were a multi-billion-dollar company
Right.
before they sued, so they shouldn't have won the suit, but it is what it is.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I think it's a professional sport in its own way.
I'm kind of on the same page with you there, short. Um, Obviously, there's aspects that make it not a sport, which is where the
Yep.
entertainment part comes in. Um, but like you said, as far as the matches, the fact that they get paid, they get tested, um, they are putting their bodies on the line, just like you would in any other contact sport. It's definitely a sport in those regards. Um, as far as my opinion is concerned. Anybody in chat have an answer for that one?
I also want to throw in that they are at higher risk for death than any other sport.
Yep.
I
Not,
wouldn't say.
not being with not being with vehicles or anything like that, but on foot. Like,
MMA is also close, I think, but they're more.
MMA is actually safer than you would think.
yep.
Yeah, because of what they know, and the fighters aren't stupid in the MMA.
Well,
They could possibly kill somebody if they hit them in the wrong place. You know,
True.
so there is a certain level of knowledge that is also different. Because an MMA fighter would know where to hit. A pro wrestler has no clue where he would. He just doesn't matter where he hits. He just wants to hit. It's not as important for a wrestler to know where to hit.
Well,
You
it
know.
is. Certain
Yeah,
moves, certain moves,
yeah.
like a power bomb, for instance. If you don't
but
put
that's not hitting,
somebody,
right? That's more of a throwing, and that's more not throwing a punch. That's throwing somebody to the floor. That's a
oh
slam.
right, that's why it's more dangerous.
That is more dangerous. But like I said, there's moments in MMA where you could say there's still a chance that somebody dies.
There is always still a chance, yes,
The
but I
likelihood of
think
it
in
happening,
WWE,
yeah.
But
right?
nowadays, with all the safety, and then, when you're talking about the 1980s, the old school wrestling, when Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage were hot, that time I could say, yeah, it was a more dangerous sport than boxing, or because of those throws and people getting tossed out of the ring, and you name it.
Well, I mean, it's the same even to this day. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
but
they're
people
doing
people
even
got
more.
smarter. People got
Huh?
smarter, and you don't, people know about these kind of things, that if you do certain things, there is a risk involved about, injury.
True, very true.
And I think that the chances of death during a wrestling match have slimmed, because of the knowledge of people and the knowledge of the people that practice the sport, because you have to have knowledge of the sport to be able to participate in the sport in the first place.
Yeah, but the high risk factor is more now
Yeah, because of the fact
because
that people
people are
are,
attempting more high risk things than they did in the 70s, 80s, and
People
90s.
people go more crazy nowadays, I could imagine.
yeah,
Yeah,
people are going
because
off the top rope much higher than they did before. They're taking the risks further, so that you're
yeah,
Yeah, but that's just, that's another thing. That's just again to raise the entertainment level.
Right, and that's
Right,
exactly why they do it. But that also
right,
increases your chances of someone getting a very serious injury because of them taking
True.
those entertaining bumps that we all enjoy seeing.
right.
So it's yeah, it's hard to
I mean,
say.
yeah, it's like a 50-50 thing, I'd say.
Well, no, I'm 100% with you. If it comes to, possibility of risking death in a sport, I sure as hell could say that wrestling is on the top of the list because, with all the jumping and all those moves, in the ropes and uh, throwing somebody off the out or out of the ring, those kind of things are dangerous
Hmm.
and you would never see in a sport like MMA because that is sealed off,
Yeah.
so those kind of possibilities are much more likely to occur in a wrestling match than they would ever happen in an MMA fight because there's also you know a lot more referees and people around with MMA fights. It's also a referee who's looking at another person at a match differently than us, who knows at certain times that it's getting risky.
Right.
So that's also falling back on people getting smarter. So in that sense, I guess it's safe to say that MMA is a safer sport.
Yeah. It amazes me that people. I mean, you look at MMA compared to boxing, and people will automatically assume that MMA is actually more dangerous than boxing, when it's actually the complete opposite.
Right.
I think it's dependent on the situation because
Well, see. Here's why. Here is why it is safer than boxing. So you take boxing, and you are in a fight for, say it's a 10 round fight. That boxer can get knocked down, possibly is most likely taking a concussion every time he gets dropped, but they allow him to come back up after, before the count of 10, and he can get knocked down at least twice per round. In MMA, that doesn't happen. Once you get knocked down and you can't defend yourself, the match is over. The referee jumps in, he stops it, it's done.
Yep.
okay, I see where this is going. Yeah,
So,
that is
so
a risk that you have, but you have to understand that the sport is different, right?
oh yeah, it's
Because
absolutely different.
and the fact that when somebody drops in an MMA match, uh, they aren't stopped, so the person can just jump on top and hit him in the head until he gives in.
Well, it has to do with whether or not the other person. So he gets dropped. As long as he can properly defend himself, they will let the fight continue. But if he gets to the point where he isn't defending himself anymore, that's when they call the fight. He either taps
Yeah,
out
and
because of a
and
submission,
that,
or he can't. If he can't actively defend himself, that's when the
so I
referees
would
jump in.
say it would be smart if you know that this occurs. I would say it would be smart to put a limitation on how many times a fighter can go to the canvas.
I would
If
agree.
you go two times to the canvas, in one round, there should be only one round. If you go the next round and you go two times to the canvas, they should be able to say, okay, that's enough. You're not going to continue because you already hit the canvas four times. You know, that should be some sort of rule that they're not able to, keep on going down twice and not three times and just continue the fight. They should be, smart enough to notice that if he goes down two times in one round and the next round he does it again, they should be able to say, that's enough. I've seen footage of fighters like Muhammad Ali who just refused to fight their opponent because their opponent is not fighting back,
Right.
and they're
True.
still waiting for the referee to call it. And that's then I'm like, that's a poor decision on the referee's end. And referee should be really the leading factor in the fight. You
Hmm.
know, he
That's
should
one
be the
thing I
one
do
to
like about.
decide.
That's one thing I do like about the MMA. The referees in the MMA is they are all properly trained to notice when you know things are
And that
going
should be
south.
also in boxing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that should also be in boxing because if a fighter just keeps on getting hit in the head and he just goes down twice in a round, yeah, then it's
actually, I just
gonna end up with some bad concussions.
right. I actually just watched a UFC fight the other day where the fight actually didn't even go to the ground, but the match got stopped because the fighter couldn't defend himself while he was standing.
And that kind of thing shouldn't happen, then it should already be over. Like, you can't defend yourself, you can't fight.
Right, and that's what the referee did in that particular UFC fight was the fighter didn't get dropped to the ground, but he was standing up and couldn't defend himself, so the referee jumped in and was like, "This match is over."
So what I'm wondering now is like, is this because the referees and in the MMA are more intelligent or more trained to be a
I th-
referee than the boxing community?
I to me it has to do with more training. Um, because
I'm
of
just
the I
wondering.
think the MMA referees in general get more training on that kind of thing because of the fact that their sport is more aggressive. It can go from being on the feet to from a boxing match or a kickboxing match to a wrestling match. So I think they get more training in noticing different cues and different signs to be like, okay, well, obviously this is I need to stop this because
And I think it's, another thing is that those a lot of respect is also there in place from the fighters to the referee.
hmm
Because when they get pulled off another fighter, they don't go hitting the referee. It's
right,
it's like they respect the decision of the referee and they just walk away. That's and it's also the mutual respect between fighters.
right,
Even though they're fighting in the middle of battle in a match, once they leave the cage, it's all
yep,
different. And that's how it's supposed to be.
yeah,
And nowadays, if you look at, for example, soccer, you can't be sitting next to the opposing team. You can't be sitting next to them because, there's going to be a problem.
exactly.
And I think that is, yeah, it's shameful. It's so sad that you can be like, that's your team, this is my team. I won this one. Let's have a beer afterwards and let's talk about it.
Right,
But that's just not possible anymore. And it all comes down to people aren't really communicating anymore. It's all social media and all digitalized communication. It's not speaking from one person to another.
right.
It's hard nowadays because nowadays if I as a man have some opinion about somebody, for say a woman in this case, and you try to ask them a question about something and they take it a negative way, you're immediately put in a bad spotlight, right? So that communication is really hard to have nowadays, where you can just say openly what you think without being judged. And of course, there's always people who agree with you and people that don't agree with you. That's normal, and I respect the people that say I don't agree with you. And if you can explain why, that's even the better. But that form of communication has been dying, all because of social media.
Yep, exactly.
And that goes, I think, in my opinion, has effect on those boxing fighters and their referees not being able have the intelligence or the know-how to spot when a fighter is not able to fight anymore. That's kind of sad, you know. You would expect now that we're in the 21st century that the referees would evolve too, you know, that they
Exactly.
would be more educated to notice when a fighter is not capable of fighting anymore, and just to safeguard the health and, you know, safeguard a fighter's life, you know, because he's putting it out there in a match, but he needs to be able to trust the referee with his life,
Hmm.
you know. And the way you make it sound now is like they can never trust the referee because even though he goes down twice, he's still able to accordingly to the referee able to fight, and
Yeah.
I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's
And
really
then and
wrong.
that's why Muhammad Ali has the had the health issues that he did, and it's because
He
of taking
died he died because of that sport.
right, and it was because of taking so many blows to the head and the referees not stopping the fight when it should have been stopped.
And that's literally the words of Mike Tyson, right? He
Hmm.
died because of the sport. And
Yep.
he tells in that interview, he says that he could never die for that sport, you know, and that even though he was great, he was
Hmm.
one of the best fighters in the world, he would never stand a chance against somebody great like Muhammad Ali because you know that's 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 a form of respect that you don't see nowadays anymore, really that much.
Right.
That form of respect for another fighter, you know, in say for like I was great, but he was even greater, and I can't compare to that because, you know, it was a different era, and not only that, he was a different type of fighter.
Absolutely.
So you know, it's beautiful. I think that's beautiful, you know, like where a person like Mike Tyson sits down and is like, you know, when I was the fighter that I was, I didn't like him. I didn't like the person that I was when I was the fighter,
Right.
right? And that being humble, you know,
Hmm.
that really touched me, you know, from a guy like Mike Tyson, who he always was like the bad guy, you know,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
who was all and
He had
then
that persona.
he had that charisma, you know, that he was always put in the bad spotlight because he destroyed people.
Hmm.
He really destroyed people. His punches were so hard, he really destroyed people. And he was a monster in that sense in the ring. He was really a monster. He was so good and so powerful. You know, he could easily destroy anybody in the ring. And even up till this day, he still has it, you know, but to know that he knows himself that he doesn't like this person, you know, he
Hmm.
doesn't want to be that person, and all the things that he acquired with this fighting, you know, you should have seen it, you know, his champion belt laying on the table, and he's just like, this is garbage, man. This is garbage. Where you and I are like, you know, bro, that's a championship belt. That's an accomplishment,
Right.
you know. And he's like, this is garbage. You know, that's something, you know, that makes you think differently about a person, you know. Like all this time you thought he was like, you know, the bad boy and the killer machine, and he
Right.
wasn't a nice person. And then you see how fragile the man is in an interview, you know, how emotional he gets speaking about it.
Yep.
That's a beautiful thing.
All right, guys. Well, I think that is going to do it for episode 7 of Talk About Sports. I want to thank Nick for coming in, Short Fuse for you popping in, everybody in chat,
Of course.
Titan, Frenchie, Big Bad. I appreciate every one of you for coming in.
It
It
was a
was
pleasure,
fun.
man.
I had a
Yeah,
blast.
definitely.
Yeah, it was fun.
All right, guys. We're gonna raid out. We're gonna raid that chick Brit22. If you guys do not follow her on Twitch, please, please, please give her some taco love. Show some support. Give her a follow if you don't already follow. All right, guys. Let's get the raid started here.
You're getting the
All right, guys. I appreciate it. Yep, absolutely. All right, absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you.